You know that moment when your head finally hits the pillow? The room goes quiet, and suddenly your brain decides now is the perfect time to replay every awkward thing you have ever said since the 7th grade? Yeah, that is not anxiety. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand what is actually happening to you. And honestly, it might change the way you see yourself entirely. Let me start with something that is going to sound strange. When you lie awake at 3 in the morning, dissecting a conversation you had 6 months ago, your mind is not glitching. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is that nobody ever told you why. Think about your average day. You wake up, you check your phone, you get pulled into responsibilities, conversations, deadlines, notifications. Your brain barely gets a second to breathe. From the moment your feet hit the floor, you are reacting. You are performing. You are managing other people's emotions, solving problems that are not yours, and filtering yourself to fit whatever room you are standing in. And you do this all day long without even realizing how much energy it takes. But here is where it gets interesting. When night comes and the world finally goes silent, your brain does not just shut off. It does the opposite. It finally gets the space it has been begging for all day. And instead of resting, it starts processing. Not random nonsense. It processes everything you suppressed, every emotion you swallowed, every response you held back, every moment where you felt something but told yourself it was not the right time to deal with it. Let me give you a real example. There was a woman, let us call her Nadia. Nadia worked in a high-pressure marketing agency. She was good at her job, well-liked, always composed. But every single night, like clockwork, she would lie in bed and spiral. She would replay meetings where she felt talked over. She would obsess over a message from her manager that felt slightly cold. She would run mental simulations of what she should have said, what she could have done differently, what people probably thought of her. She went to a therapist convinced she had generalized anxiety disorder. But after a few sessions, her therapist pointed out something Nadia had never considered. She was not anxious. She was emotionally backlogged. Her days were so packed with performing and people-pleasing that she had zero time to actually feel anything. So her brain waited. It waited for the only window of silence it would get: nighttime. And this is the first thing I need you to understand. Overthinking at night is not a disorder. It is a symptom. It is your mind trying to complete emotional cycles that you interrupted during the day. Now think about this for a second. Think about the last time you were in a situation where someone said something that stung. Maybe a passive-aggressive comment from a coworker or a dismissive look from someone you care about. What did you do? You probably smiled. You probably moved on. You probably told yourself you were overreacting. But you were not overreacting. You were suppressing. And suppression does not delete the emotion. It just postpones it. Here is a psychological insight that most people never hear. There is a concept called the Zeigarnik effect. It says that your brain remembers incomplete tasks far better than completed ones. This does not just apply to your to-do list. It applies to your emotions. When you feel something but do not process it, your brain flags it as unfinished business. And unfinished business is exactly what keeps your mind spinning at 2 in the morning. But here is where it gets deeper, and honestly, a little unsettling. A lot of the overthinking you do at night is not even about today. It is about patterns. Your brain is not just replaying what happened at lunch. It is connecting that moment to something from your childhood, something from a past relationship, something from a version of you that you thought you had moved past. The coworker who dismissed your idea in the meeting is not the real problem. The real problem is that your brain recognized a pattern. It felt like the time your parent ignored you at the dinner table. It felt like the time your ex made you feel stupid for sharing your opinion. And now your brain is screaming at you in the dark, trying to get you to see the connection. This is not overthinking. This is pattern recognition running on overdrive, because you never gave it the space to run during the day. Be honest with yourself for a moment. How often do you actually sit with your emotions during daylight hours? How often do you pause after something uncomfortable happens and say, "That hurt. Let me feel this right now"? Almost never, right? Most of us do not. We've been trained to push through, to stay productive, to keep it together. And we wear that like a badge of honor without realizing that every unfelt emotion is being added to a queue. And that queue gets processed at night, whether you like it or not. Now I want to tell you about something even more revealing. And this is the part most people miss entirely. There is a second layer to nighttime overthinking that has nothing to do with unprocessed emotions. It has to do with identity. During the day, you play roles. You are the professional, the reliable friend, the good partner, the one who has it together. You wear these masks so naturally that you forget they are masks. But at night, when you're lying in the dark with no one to perform for, those masks fall off. And what is left underneath is the version of you that has questions. The version that wonders if you are actually happy. The version that feels like something is off but cannot name it. Let me tell you about a man named Kerem. Kerem was 29, successful by most definitions. Good job, good apartment, active social life. But every night, he would spiral into overthinking. Not about work or stress, about meaning. He would lie awake wondering why he felt hollow despite doing everything right. He would question his friendships. Not because anything bad happened, but because something felt performative. He would replay social situations and feel exhausted by how much energy it took to be the version of himself that everyone seemed to like. Kerem did not have anxiety. He had a misalignment. The life he was living during the day did not match who he actually was. And his brain knew it. It knew it before he did. And the only time it could bring that truth to the surface was when the noise stopped. At night. This is the thing no one talks about. Sometimes your overthinking is not a problem to fix. It is a message to decode. Your brain is not torturing you. It is trying to tell you something. It is trying to get your attention. Because during the day, you are too busy, too distracted, too committed to the performance to listen. And here is where it gets even more uncomfortable. Some of you are overthinking at night because you are in relationships or situations where your emotions are being subtly controlled. Not in obvious ways. Not in ways you would immediately recognize. But in ways that make you constantly question yourself. Someone in your life might be making you feel like your reactions are always too much. Your feelings are never quite valid. You are always the one who needs to adjust. And instead of processing this in real time, you bury it. You rationalize it. You tell yourself you're being sensitive. But at night, your brain pulls it all back up and says, wait, something is not right here. This is not anxiety. This is your intuition trying to survive under the weight of emotional manipulation. Think about it. If someone in your life is consistently making you feel like you are the problem, you're not going to challenge that belief during a busy Tuesday afternoon. You're going to push it down. And then at midnight, your mind is going to run through every interaction, every word, every subtle shift in tone, trying to figure out why you feel so drained. That is not overthinking. That is your brain doing detective work on a situation your conscious mind is too scared to confront. There is a psychological term for this. It is called cognitive dissonance. It is what happens when your lived experience does not match the story you are telling yourself. When someone you love treats you in a way that feels wrong, but you keep telling yourself it is fine. Your brain cannot reconcile those two realities. So it and processes, usually at 3 in the morning. But I saved the most important part for last. The real reason you overthink at night. The deepest reason. The one underneath all the emotional backlog and identity crisis and pattern recognition is this. You are not living in alignment with your own truth during the day. Somewhere along the way, you learned that your real thoughts were too intense. Your real feelings were too much. Your real self was not quite acceptable. So you built a daytime version of yourself that is polished and palatable. And that version runs the show for 16 hours a day. But at night, the real you shows up. And that version of you does not overthink. It just finally gets the chance to think. For the first time all day, the filter is off. And all those thoughts rush in like water breaking through a dam. So the next time you're lying awake at 3 in the morning, I want you to try something. Instead of fighting it, instead of telling yourself something is wrong with you, instead of grabbing your phone to numb it. Just listen. Ask yourself what your brain is actually trying to say. Not the surface level stuff, not the replayed conversations, the deeper message underneath it all. Because 9 times out of 10, your nighttime brain is not your enemy. It is the most honest version of you that exists. And maybe the scariest part of all is not the overthinking itself. It is the possibility that your brain has been trying to tell you the truth for months, maybe years, and you've been too busy during the day to hear it. The silence of the night is not your problem. It is your invitation. The only question is whether you are brave enough to accept it. If you enjoy content like this, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for watching.